Chapter 1 of The Autobiography of a Newspaper Girl. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Autobiography of a Newspaper Girl by Elizabeth Banks. Chapter 1. I am committed to the charge of the angels. He shall give his angels charge concerning thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. This was the benediction of my venerable relative and guardian, when one day I left my Wisconsin farm home, all full of youth and health and confidence, to earn my own living and make a career. My going away was an important event in that quiet neighborhood, and there were gathered about the little village station, in spring-seated wagonettes and hard-seated lumber wagons, many farmers and their families who stood up high and waved their handkerchiefs to me as the train moved away. A few years before, there had also been a little stir in the place over a leave-taking of mine. Then I had gone away to boarding school, a girls' seminary, where, I was told, I must study hard and learn my lessons and finally graduate with honors, to show my appreciation of all the sacrifices that were being made at the farm to give me the advantages of a college education. "Now remember," my relative had said to me on that occasion, when parting, "you are going away to school so you can become capable of taking care of yourself when you are older. You are a poor girl, without a penny you can call your own in all the world. Think of that when you are tempted to have a good time instead of studying hard." So, during the 4 years at the seminary, I remembered it, and though at school I never got the name of being a bookworm or a goody, indeed, though I even became a member of a select set known among the faculty as the Society of the 10 Imps, I did study hard, and partly worked my way through college, always with the end in view of preparing to support myself. As it seemed to me I should like best to earn my living by writing for the newspapers, I paid particular attention to such studies as I thought would help me in that way, and my compositions, in which I never described anything that did not really happen to myself or some of my schoolmates, gained for me a sort of local fame. Then, in 4 years, I graduated in a white frock with a piece of embroidery round the bottom, a frock that, I was informed by my relative on the farm, must be especially well taken care of, it having been procured at the village store in exchange for 10 pounds of butter and 8 dozen eggs. When I had returned home in the summer of my graduation, and my sheepskin diploma had been framed and hung in the parlor, to be proudly exhibited to every caller, I set myself to learning stenography and typewriting with the idea of at once becoming a newspaper reporter. Then I wrote to the editors of all the newspapers of which I had ever heard, and offered them my valuable services. Never an answer came back, though I had enclosed a stamped envelope for reply in every letter. I decided that editors must be approached personally, and not by letter, and I concluded that in order to get to the places where editors lived and newspapers were published, I must obtain some sort of situation in a large town. Then I sent out another batch of letters, this time to all the large stores that I saw advertised in the semi-weekly newspaper that came to the farm, asking for a position as stenographer and typewriter at any wages they liked to offer. From my 30 letters I got one reply, offering me a situation. It was from a wholesale grocer in a large western city, who offered me $8 a week to write his letters and keep account of his cash. The situation was accepted. Then came my second leave-taking at the village station, and then I went out into the world, confident, though all alone, committed to the charge of the angels. When I arrived in the city, I hunted up a boarding house where I was to be fed and lodged for $5 a week. The landlady found me a washerwoman who would do my laundry work for 50 cents a week, and when the next morning I began work in my situation, I saw that out of my $8 weekly salary, I would have left over, for clothes and sundries, just $2.50 each week. For several months I wrote the grocer's letters, kept his cash accounts, and made myself, as he frequently told me, his valuable assistant. The grocer's desk was near a very large window, over which the curtain was never drawn. The table with my typewriting machine upon it was also placed near this window, and there, among the tastefully displayed exhibits of sugars, coffees, teas, soaps, and canned goods, I sat all day and wrote on the machine. People stopped and looked at me along with the specimen goods in the window, till my face would grow red and tears of embarrassment would roll down my cheeks, and my fingers trembled and stumbled as they flew over the typewriter keys. I knew that the grocer had no intention of making an advertisement of me, yet nevertheless I said to him rather bitterly one day, "Mr. Sampson, don't you think you had better mark me Exhibit A, so those people out there will know just where to place me among your other goods?" I pointed to the pavement outside, where half a dozen men stood looking into the window. The grocer pulled down the curtain with a bang, and carried my machine over to an obscure corner, where I could no longer serve as an advertisement for the store. In a few months I began to grow tired of the grocery business, and decided it was time to start out in newspaper work. So I wrote a long article, heading it, "All About Typewriter Girls," and sent it to the editor of the Daily Hustler, the principal newspaper in the city, saying in my note to him, "Please publish this in your next Sunday's paper. It is all true." The next Sunday the article was published on the front page of the paper. On Monday morning I said to the wholesale grocer, "I shall be leaving you on Saturday night. I'm going to be a newspaper reporter." My reason for thus summarily resigning was that I had seen my article in print, and I doubted not that all I had to do was to go and ask for a situation and find it ready to hand. During the noon hour I went to the man I had heard spoken of as the owner of the paper. His office was on the 5th floor of the great newspaper building. To my knock at his office door he answered, "Come in," and then I confronted an elderly man, white-whiskered and with a kind face. "Do you own the paper?" I asked. "I'm inclined to think I do," he answered, looking somewhat amused and surprised. "Then will you please give me a situation on it? I had an article on the first page yesterday," I concluded. "It was about typewriter girls. Now that I know I can write well enough to be published, I would like a regular salaried position." "I read your article," he said, and I thought the editor was giving too much prominence to the first effort of a beginner. "Why, wasn't it good?" I exclaimed, amazed at such heartless criticism, and terrified at the thought that I had resigned my situation at the grocer's. "I thought you'd give me a place right away, and I told my employer, Mr. Sampson, the big grocer, that I wouldn't work for him after Saturday night, because I was going to be a newspaper girl." "A newspaper girl, a newspaper girl," the old man repeated to himself musingly. Then he exclaimed suddenly, "Don't think of it, my poor child. Be anything, but don't be a newspaper girl. Go back to your grocer and tell him you made a mistake." He passed his hand over his brow, as though trying to smooth out the wrinkles and collect thoughts concerning something that had happened in a time gone by. "I won't go back," I replied, planting my feet firmly before his desk and looking at him defiantly. "I won't have the grocer laugh at me, and I'm determined to be a newspaper reporter. If you won't give me a chance on your paper, I will go to Chicago and get a place. There are lots of papers there, you know." "Don't go to Chicago. No, no," he called out, as he jumped up and rushed toward the door through which I was making my indignant exit. "Come here to my office next Monday morning at 9 o'clock. You are so little, I will see if I can find a hole to stow you away in." The next Monday morning when I appeared, The old man showed me a beautiful new typewriter, with a wonderfully convenient desk. "I bought it last Saturday, especially for you to write on," he said. "You will be my confidential clerk and secretary in the mornings, and in the afternoons you may try your hand at writing pieces for the editors upstairs. I'll pay you $10 a week to start on. It isn't much, but it's all my conscience tells me you'll be worth for the first 2 or 3 months." When I returned to my boarding house one night, I found there a letter announcing the death of my Wisconsin relative. I cried myself to sleep, and in my dreams the old familiar voice whispered again, "He shall give his angels charge concerning thee," and I was comforted. So it was that I became a newspaper girl. End of chapter 1.